and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. Over the past 7 years, we've understood what matters most to you, the entrepreneur. And in year 8, we're taking head-on 2 of your most pressing concerns, that of funding and mentoring. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. Tonight, on our special series, Ballantine's Golf Retreat presents Undaunted Greats. Spotlight is on Deepak Garg of Rivigo. On the other side of a break is Redbus. Our first receptor tonight is Rivigo, which is using the relay economy, something that's been in focus of late, to drive up their trucking business. We're in fact now being joined live by Deepak Garg, the founder of Rivigo, to run us through this business, to run us through how he's managed to really scale in such a short span of time. Deepak, very good having you joining us on the show tonight. Before we started this interview, I was talking about the relay economy, and I really want for you to break it down for our viewers to help them understand what you mean by that. You know, what is at the core really of the technology that you're using for this? How does that model really work, if you can explain it to us?
So we are primarily addressing the trucking market. Trucking in India is about $100 to $150 billion in terms of gross transaction value. Every year we are adding about $10 to $15 billion of trucking freight in India. This is about 3 to 4% of India's GDP. It's a fairly large addressable market. Well, I would love to believe that relay can be applicable in every part of the economy. In fact, a few years ago, in a discussion with Niti Aayog, I had argued that relay economy can actually unlock a lot of jobs in India with a very resourceful capital spend. Basically, if you look at all the assets in the economy, they are being used for only half, for 40-50% of the time, right? Whether it's educational institutes, retail shops, or hospitals, or office buildings, or road infrastructure. Right? There's a lot of opportunity to build a relay economy around every asset in India and every process in India, which can actually reduce the capital spend in India to the number of jobs that are getting created. We all know that India is a capital-starved market, but a labor surplus market. So if we can use the same dollar and actually sweat it a lot more by using it for 24/7 using relay economy, I think a lot of high-quality jobs that can be created in the Indian economy.
What you are doing be achieved only through the use of technology? Is it possible to have perhaps built this in an offline world, on an offline model?
Absolutely. I think Rivigo at the core is a technology company. We have very high quality technology and data science talent. And as I explained earlier, relay cannot work unless technology is at the core of every aspect of relay, right from managing the asset efficiencies, from managing the pilferage of different aspects in the value chain, from managing accountability, from managing the changeovers and the flowovers, from managing rostering of pilots, giving visibility and transparency to our customers. None of this would work if technology was not at the core of what we are building. So every process is built in a tech-first format to ensure that this is a highly scalable business idea.
Numbers in terms of how many trucks, how many drivers, etc., associated with you at this point?
So let me just explain how we are structured. So we have two parts of the business. One is a owned relay network where we run and operate 3,000 trucks. They are being driven by 5,000 truck pilots across 24 major national freight corridors of India. We also operate 2.5 million square feet of warehousing. We cover 16,000 pin codes in the entire country in terms of pickup and delivery of material. That's one part of Rivigo, which is our own network where we have built relay as a core value proposition. The other part of Rivigo is where we have a freight marketplace where we are just an intermediary connecting the market trucks to our customers. We provide technology to the fleet owners and we provide technology to the customers, and they come around and execute a transaction. We run the price exchange, we run the payment platform, and we ensure that the quality of the transaction is maintained. On this platform, we have about 100,000 trucks which are associated with Rivigo, which are not owned by Rivigo. our idea is to make these trucks also into smart and relay trucks by giving them the IoT sensors which we have built for our own trucks, and by giving them the truck pilots eventually in a relay as a service format. One of the things I like to talk about is that India is going to face a huge and a chronic shortage of truck drivers. The government data says we'll have only 50% of the truck drivers to the number of trucks in the country by 2022. For every 1,000 trucks, we'll have 482 odd truck drivers. As we enter the era of truck driver shortage, we want to give the relay as a service as an option to the individual small fleet owners, people who are owning 3-5 trucks. So to them, we are giving a technology platform of Rivigo where they can come in and basically execute, get the volumes also, but also get relay pilots. That's the broad sort of infra asset and pilot ecosystem of Rivigo.
Understand you've recently raised in excess of $35 million from existing investors like Warburg, Pincus, as well as Safe Partners. Can you just give us a sense, of how you're planning on using those funds? What are the plans really?
So, our fundraise all goes in, scaling up the relay model, building the technology of the relay model, and also has gone in building the asset footprint which we have built across the country now. As I said, we have 2.5 million square feet of warehousing capacity. We have branches all across the country with 16,000 pin codes. We are operating across 24 largest freight corridors in the country. We've pretty much done this from ground zero over the last 4 years. So all our funding has gone in terms of infrastructure and technology building.
While we've been talking about the opportunities, Deepak, I also want to talk to you about what some of the biggest challenges were, particularly given that we're talking about the logistics market.
Trucking is not an easy sector in this country, right? I think it's one of the most challenging sectors to operate in. You're operating an asset which goes from anywhere to anywhere in the country, which crosses several state borders, has interventions from police, RTO, now sales tax is not there, but tax authorities. So everyone there's a lot of interference in this sector. So I think that's a first and foremost challenge, right? It's not a easy sector to operate in. There are a lot of hurdles. It has been unorganized. Things have happened in an unorganized fashion in this sector. So things have happened through what you call jugaad in this sector. So there's a lot of difference in how a single fleet operator will operate versus a tech logistics company will operate. So unless you hit a certain scale and level of efficiency, I think your cost structure will continue to be high. So I think that's the first and foremost challenge we have faced, and we have overcome this over the last 3-4 years. And now as we speak, relay trucking is cheaper than traditional trucking. Our unit cost of trucking is cheaper compared to a regular normal truck. And every year, as the paucity of truck drivers will increase, the relay trucking will continue to become better and better. Second is, it hasn't been very easy to excite talent in this sector because, consumer sectors typically get a lot of high quality talent, right, are in the buzz all the time. Logistics is the back end sector, right? It's a service sector. So I think that is also one of the challenges. Now we have overcome it, but I don't think 4 years ago anyone wanted to come into trucking or logistics as openly and easily as one comes in now. So we built a very high quality team and built a lot of technology and business talent.
Deepak Garg, thanks so much for your time. All right, let's slip into a short break. When we come back, Redbus is our second disruptor tonight. Do stay tuned. The management joining us live here on the show. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. We are in conversation with Redbus, which is our second disruptor tonight. bus ticketing and the online travel ticketing space has been changing rapidly. We've seen a lot of innovation there. But the front runner in that space definitely has been Redbus, and I'm being joined at this point by Prakash Sangam, the CEO of Redbus, to talk to us about really how this model has scaled, how they've scaled the model, about their acquisition by GoIbibo, and much more. Prakash, good having you here on the show tonight. Thanks for taking the time. Let's talk about you personally and your personal journey until you joined Redbus. It was essentially a founder-led organization. What about the vision perhaps? What about the growth story perhaps drew you really to this business?
Hello Shirinda, thank you for having me. So as you know, when I joined Redbus, it had just been acquired by Ibibo Group, and the early founders and the early investors were kind of moving on, right? And that coincided with the time when the Indian internet was also witnessing a lot of action. We were seeing mega investments coming into e-commerce space. And so my job when I joined was to really scale up, was to oversee the scale up of Redbus.
At a time when Redbus was launched, there was really no concept of what it meant to consolidate the bus ticketing space, really the travel ticketing space. What has led to that? And what was that initial journey like?
Yeah, so the business model that we operate for our primary business, which is intercity bus ticketing, like you said, is that of a marketplace. So we have got sellers who list and market themselves on our platform, and we have got passengers who come in and buy tickets of those sellers, which are bus operators. And the business model that we have is that of charging commission from the sellers who are listed in the marketplace. And that model has not changed, that continues. The commission that we charge from bus operators is the same as what they were paying to the traditional modes of distribution, which are agents or their own booking counters. So what has really helped galvanize the adoption of online ticketing amongst bus operators is the fact that distribution through online modes is often the cheapest for them, right? Because while we are charging the same commission, there is a lot more cost associated with offline ticketing. You have to think about collecting cash. There is a chance of pilferage. The cash flows are not predictable. There could be bad debts with agents. So the cost of distribution, the overall cost is much more expensive when somebody is doing it offline, and online it's cheaper. And that is what has led to the fast adoption of online ticketing amongst all our seller base. And we have continued to be on the same model, and despite the fact that we have grown by leaps and bounds, the commission that we charge from our sellers has remained the same.
The fact that you were acquired by GoIbibo, I understand 6 to 7 years ago. So for a small entrepreneur who is perhaps in this space, wants to know about consolidation, wants to know how things are changing, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, so Redbus got acquired by Ibibo 6 years ago, and in fact, we had another big event when Ibibo Group itself merged with Make My Trip about 2.5 years ago. So in a short life of about 12 years that Redbus as a business has had, we have had like multiple ownership structures, so to say. In our case, when Ibibo bought Redbus, it was a complementary product for them, because Ibibo was more stronger. GoIbibo as a brand was obviously focused not on buses, they were in flight ticketing, and they wanted to build a big business in the hotel space. So bus ticketing was complementary, and they wanted more of an inroad into the travel segment, and that is why they bought Redbus. So as long as you are complementary, life becomes a bit more easier because your plans can continue the way they are. It becomes slightly tougher when you're being acquired and your business are being integrated into another company, right?
Sure.
So in our case, we have not undergone that experience. So given that it's been a complementary business, we have had a pretty good experience with this. We got a lot more investment. We got strategic backers. We didn't have, earlier there were financial investors who were looking for an exit after 7-8 years. But with Ibibo coming in, with the parent company being Naspers, and now Make My Trip Group, they're all strategic investors, and they are in it for the long term. And that gives us a lot of freedom in the way we are able to then think of our long-term plans, think of our investment structures, the kind of horizon in which we're looking at returns on investment. So it's been a very healthy and welcome move in that sense to get acquired.
Let's talk about Red Hotel, which I understand is your hotel offering. What more can you tell us about that? How are you promoting it, etc.? What can you share?
Look, Shuranda, we started hotels when we were part of IBIBO group, and their Go IBIBO was the major brand in hotels, and the role for Redbus was to target the budget traveler and focused on hyper locations around bus stops and railway stations, and giving some value-added features like early check-in, because most of the travel with train and buses is overnight, right? But then, as I said, 2.5 years ago, we merged with Make My Trip, and then we had 3 brands in our portfolio: Make My Trip, Go IBIBO, and Redbus. And as you would know, Make My Trip is also a very formidable player in the hotel space.
Sure.
So we as a group, we decided that it is better to focus our energies on Make My Trip and Go IBIBO, and the flanking roles that we were planning to play between Go IBIBO and Redbus could better be played between Make My Trip and Go IBIBO itself. So since then, we have deprioritized hotels onto our platform.
How at Redbus are you ensuring that the vast amount of data that you're collecting from your portal, from the consumers that you work with, is being protected? What's really the opportunity when it comes to using that data further, perhaps? And also, what advice would you have for small businesses about data protection, about reading data that they're collecting from the consumers, and what really they can do with this wealth of information?
So the way we look at data is to monetize it slightly differently. You spoke about providing customized experience, and we think that's the way to go. So how do you differentiate the experience for one traveler compared to another? Because you know their history of booking with you, can you personalize the experience that you have, the kind of recommendations that you're able to show, and thereby build stickiness? You improve the conversion rates because what you're showing them is more personalized. You improve stickiness and retention, and that in turn leads to increase in revenue and greater monetization.
Sure.
And as far as data protection is concerned, look, we don't take too much of personal data. What we need is mobile number, which is mandatory. The email ID is optional. And then we collect the payment data, the payment instrument data, which we don't store. We pass that on to the payment processors. But both our website and apps are PCI DSS certified, which is one of the highest forms of certification for payment security.
You also have multiple partnerships with some of the biggest names in the industry when it comes to, say, PhonePe, Truecaller, etc. What do these partnerships mean for you, Prakash?
So we think of them as distribution partners for us. So on PhonePe, for example, we have a Redbus branded experience entirely. We have a Redbus store there. So the customers of PhonePe who currently may not be transacting on Redbus are able to discover Redbus and transact, buy a bus ticket of Redbus, enjoying the Redbus experience while being on PhonePe. And it's a win-win partnership.
I understand that you've gone global now with launches both in Malaysia and Singapore. What can you tell us about how perhaps these markets are different from India? How have you approached these markets differently perhaps? What's the way forward there?
We entered Singapore and Malaysia, like you said, about 3 or 4 years ago. It's a relatively smaller size market, but we entered that because it was very easy for us to set up operations and start out organically. And what we have achieved over the last 3 years has been phenomenal. So we are market leader in this market now. We have a market share of about 5 to 6%, which means that of all the bus tickets that are being sold in this country, about 6% of those are being bought on the Redbus platform. We intend to take this to up to double digits by the end of this financial year. So looking forward in the next year, we will be upwards of 10% market share. We would be a clear market leader, and we will also be breaking even.
Okay, before I let you go, Prakash, one last question. This is as far as the regulatory framework is concerned. There's been so much conversation and so much noise, really, if I can call it that. Oh, what's happening when it comes to the transport space, particularly tech and transport combined? The government, perhaps, and this is what most businesses in this industry give us to understand, is not really understanding what should be the regulatory framework. Where do businesses fit in? What should, really the taxation policy look like for industry, for businesses in this industry? I want to relay your views on this as we're winding this conversation down.
Look, it's a mixed bag. There's a lot that the government is doing which is very favorable to our industry. For example, the whole incentivization around adopting digital payments, reducing merchant discount rates to 0 for transactions which are below 2,000 on debit cards and UPI. All of this will definitely help towards adoption of online methods of booking and transactions going forward. So those are really welcome steps.
Prakash? Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Shinanda.